Okay, this video is to learn how to type a radical into Desmos. If the radical only contains the variable x, then it's not an issue. But when the variable contains when the radical contains different variables, then it can present a problem. And an example is the square root of 12x cubed y squared. One thing that you have to remember is that you can never use the variable y when typing into Desmos unless it is an equation, which means it has to have an equal sign, or an inequality, and it has an inequality symbol. You have to rewrite the problem by changing the variable y to another letter. So what I've chosen to do here is just to rewrite this problem as the square root of 12x cubed a squared. You cannot use x because it's already been used, but you can pick any other variable for y. All right, what we're going to do on this problem is we're going to type it in, and then we're going to match it to the answer. So I'm going to type in the square root of 12x to the third power. Okay, and I have to click to bring that back down. To get the letter A, I'm on my iPad, so I'm going to have to go to the keyboard here, the ABC, and I click the letter A. And then I'm going to do to the second power. Notice when I do that it brings something up that is called add a slider. Okay, and this is important because when you are given a variable other than x and you type it in Desmos, it is always going to ask for a slider. So what we want to do is we want to add the slider. Okay, and when I add the slider, I always want to make the slider equal to 2. All right, so we're going to make the slider equal to 2. We don't want it to be 1, but we are going to make it 2. So we are going to click behind the 1, and we're going to change that to a 2. When I do that, it shows me a graph. Okay, so now I'm going to type in my answer, and my answer is going to be 2xa times the square root of 3x. And as you can see, the graphs line up perfectly and match. The original graph was red. The new graph is green. And it shows directly on top of the red graph. So you know your answer is correct. So when doing radicals, you're going to be dealing with variables other than x. And when you have that, you have to set sliders. All right, on this one, we have 3 variables. We have the cube root of 32, x to the 4th, y to the 5th, z to the 6th. So when I'm typing this in, first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I have a variable different than y in place of y. So I'm going to just use a, and I'm going to write this as the cube root of 32, x to the 4th, a to the 5th, z to the 6th power. Now, when I type this into Desmos, okay, and I'm going to type it into Desmos, Desmos is very sensitive when we're typing in. I'm using the cube root. Well, I do not see the cube root on my keyboard. The only thing on my keyboard is the square root. So in order to get to the cube root, you have to go to Functions. You're going to scroll down until you see the nth root. Okay? And the nth root is right here. All right, so we are going to go to Functions. And we scroll down until we find the nth root. And we have to use this in order to put in roots higher than 2. Okay, we cannot put in a root higher than 2 without using this particular key. All right, so we're going to click on that, and it's going to automatically put it into Desmos. First thing you're going to do is you're going to put in that index, and that index is 3. And then you're going to type in the rest of the problem. You have 32 x to the 4th power, and we're going to click to bring that down. We cannot use y, so again, I'm just using a to the 5th power. And I'm going to bring it down again. Notice what happened. Once I typed in A, it says slider. And then I'm going to use Z. So I'm going to find my letter Z. And it's going to be to the 6th power. All right. At the bottom, it says add slider. And it has a slider that you need to set for A and Z. We're just going to click all, and we're going to change each of those sliders to be 2. All right, and it's going to show a graph. And then I'm going to type in my answer to make sure that my graph is matching. So I'm going to type in 2x a z squared, and it's going to be times the cube root. So again, I have to go to Functions, scroll all the way down, and go to the nth root. And I'm going to type in the index 3, saying that it is the cube root of 4x a squared. Okay, so I have 2x a z squared times the cube root of 4x a squared. All right, and we're going to make a change here because that x was an even exponent, so there should not have been an x in there. And I am going to get rid of that. All right, and we're just going to switch out the a and get rid of the x. And now I'm going to have 2xaz squared times the cube root of 4a squared Clearly something wasn't right. I typed the problem in wrong. That should have been a 32. All right, so when I do that, you can see that you only see the one graph. And by only seeing the one graph, then we know that what we have is correct.